Hi friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this cozy book chat in where I'm going to talk to you guys about my recent reads. This is going to be my monthly wrap up for the months January, February and March. I'm really excited to give you guys all the book reviews for the books that I read these first couple of months. I'll make sure to keep them spoiler free, just feelings, vibes, my Goodreads rating and just my overall thoughts for each of these books. I also thought it would be fun to have a little bit of a cozy, casual book chat. So starting here in my kitchen, making ourselves a nice something to drink and make this video feel as if you're hanging out with one of your friends and have a cozy book chat about everything we read in the first quarter of the year. These are all the books that I read in the first couple of months. I had so much fun with most of them. Unfortunately, there's one DNF. Also a couple of disappointments. I'll make sure to put timestamps in the description box down below so you can hop around to each book where you just want my opinion about, or stick around obviously for the full video. If you're new to this channel, hi, my name is Juliette. I'm here each Sunday for you where I share my new country life and talk about books. So if this sounds like your cup of tea, then please join this little community and hit the subscribe button. That would really help me out. But further than that, let's talk about books. And this is my first DNF of 2026. I'm really disappointed that this is actually a DNF. Had not expected it to be a DNF. The reason why this book is not working for me is I found out that this is actually a companion series to another book series. And everything that has happened before that is quite significant and important for this book series. There are a lot of references at the beginning of the story that I don't understand. It is quite boring. The characters don't really have anything that is sticking with me currently. It is intriguing, but I think I might get more enjoyment out of it if I read the first book series first before continuing this one. This is the first book in the Last King of Art series. It takes place in Art and you kind of follow the royal family. There are quite a lot of different point of views you follow. You follow the king and queen traveling around their realm and kind of like making sure that there are no rebellions. You get some information about things that are happening at the border. There are a lot of different things happening, but a lot of references to the first book series that I simply do not really get. And now let's dive into the books that I am still reading, because there are two books that I couldn't get to completely in the first 3 months, and that is The Final Empire and Words of Radiance. The Final Empire is a reread for me. I'm currently buddy reading this with my father. I love this series so much. It's amazing. It's about a world where the Dark Lord has won, the heroes have been defeated, and there's this small little group of people who decides to work together to give it one more try and defeat the Dark Lord. My father, however, he's a very slow reader, so I have decided to put this book down for now because he has only read 60 pages in the first 3 months. I will pick it up again when he's a little bit further into the book, so I have a little bit more of a fresher memory about every detail. Words of Radiance, I already talked to you guys about that in my winter TBR and also in my spring TBR. I'm still reading this. I only started this at the end of March. I'm still not that far. Only a little bit of 100 pages in. I love being back in this world. I love Shallan and Kaladin and Dalinar, and I can't wait to see what they're going to be up to in the next 1,000 pages. For now, let me get my cup of chocolate. It's done. The milk has been cooking, and let's go to the living room. So here we are in the living room, and as you can see, everything has been set up already. And let's take a seat. Sissi's joining us. So Sissi's having a little snack. I'm having my hot chocolate, and obviously I would love to know not only what you guys read actually in the first quarter of the year, but also what are you drinking right now. And if you have no idea what to say, leave me a little cloud emoji. But yeah, what better time and way than to sit on the ground in front of the couch with some candles on and my huge book stack of all the books that I actually read and finished. And let's start with the books that I read also for a dedicated reading vlog, because I did a full reading vlog for one of the books you guys chose for me to read in my winter TBR, and then I added another book to that reading vlog as well. I'll make sure to link in the description box down below in case you want to see my full in-depth thoughts about these two books. First one was the Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Fawcett. This is her new book that actually came out in February, I think it was. And she's the author from the Emily Wilde series. And I love that series so much. And I really enjoyed this book as well. 4 stars for my Goodreads rating. This is a book that is about Agnes, and Agnes owns a cat shelter, and then something awful happens and she needs to relocate the cat shelter with all her cats. She ends up finally, after searching for a while, she finds a place where her and the cats can stay. And this happens to be a location where there's also a very dark wizard lurking around. There are a lot of things going on, a lot of things happening after, as soon as she and the cats are actually staying in their new shelter. I especially love the cat characters. I think they were so well fleshed out. Every cat had their own little personality and I had so much fun. I also think that this book cover and this book layout, I've got the Dutch edition, is absolutely stunning. Highly recommend this book, especially if you love cats, cozy fantasy. There is some romance, but very more in the background, which I actually kind of really liked. This book is a lot more focusing on character development and grief and trying to get on with your life and trying to shelter and help cats. There's a lot of details going into taking care of the cats and rehoming them, which I really loved. I love the descriptions, I love the characters and the build up and everything. I did think that I would have preferred to be a little bit more about the cats and the cat shelter, even more than it already was, and the whole horrible threat, evil wizard, fighting, battles. I did not really care that much for that at the end of the story. And then Addie LaRue, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This was a book that you chose for me to read and I absolutely loved it. Thank you so much. I had so much fun reading this book. I think it is absolutely stunning written. It is an historical fantasy book and there are some fantasy elements to this book, but it's definitely more of an historical book, and it follows the life of Addie LaRue as she makes this deal with kind of like the devil and she gets to live forever. But the price that she pays for living forever is that no one will remember her. She will have no name, no house to live in, she won't be able to have a job. She will live forever and be on earth forever, but no one will know who she is and remember her. And I loved this story so much. I loved Addie's character, I loved her journey, her struggling with grief, her family relations, trying to find her own place in the world, but most of all trying to find love and meaning to a life that she's living. Even though she's able to see everything that's happening in the world, she's also really struggling with a lot of things, and I just loved her journey so much. And I love the romance in the story as well. It is quite dark. There are some twists and turns that I didn't expect while reading it, and I loved every minute of it. 5 stars obviously for my Goodreads rating. I thought I would kind of like move my cup a little so you guys can see Sissi a little bit better, as she's currently joining us for the next book, The Blackbird Oracle by Deborah Harkness. This was actually the last book I finished in March, and this is the 5th book in the All Souls series currently. It used to be a trilogy and now it is a full series. I haven't read book 4 actually, because that's following different characters. This one following the main characters from the original All Souls trilogy. You follow Diana and Matthew, and it's about a witch and vampire who fell in love in the first trilogy, and they got married and they got children, and so many things were happening because their love was forbidden. And in this book you kind of follow them a couple of years later. Their children have grown, they have been able to live their life together, and then they suddenly get this letter that their children are going to be tested. A lot of other things are happening, and Diana finds out that she has new powers as well that she needs to learn about. So she goes to her father's side of the family to learn more about her witchcraft. And that's kind of like what this book is really about. You kind of follow Diana following a new path to dark magic and trying to find out her new powers that she has. I gave this in the end 3 stars for my Goodreads rating. I'm not sure for that if I might change that in the future, because I think I might enjoy it more in a reread than I did while reading this. A couple of reasons why this book wasn't really hitting for me as much as the first 3 books of this series, because I love those so much. And this one was a miss for me simply because this is more just about Diana and her witchcraft. And the children are kind of like a side character that is more in the front as well, together with an aunt that she meets on her father's side. But Matthew is completely in the background, he's hardly there, he doesn't really feel like himself either. And what I really didn't like as much is that all the characters we got to know and love in the first 3 books are hardly in here. and they definitely switched up some of the characters' character as well. And even Diana feels really different. I didn't really like how some of the relationships were different from what we got new in the first 3 books. They felt so different, very shifted, and I didn't really like that as much, and I definitely was missing all the characters that I loved so much in the first 3 books in this one. And now we actually get to the first book I read and picked up in 2026, and that is Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. This is based, well, not based, like it is completely the same fanfiction but then with different names. It is a fanfiction for Draco and Hermione. And this book doesn't really shy away from that either. Like, I think that if you know Harry Potter, you will definitely recognize who's who, even though that they have different names. And this story kind of like takes place after the Dark Lord has won, the heroes have been defeated, Harry has been killed, and everyone from the Order of the Phoenix kind of has been sold into slavery. And that's kind of like probably the easiest way to describe this book if you are not familiar with the story. They have different names and I have to check them up. Like Hermione is called Bryony. Like even the end pages, you guys, it screams Draco and Hermione. And Draco is called Toven, so he definitely has a different name. And this is such a dark romantasy story. Like Hermione is being sold to Toven. He kind of like buys her for her magic, but also because he has feelings for her. There's a lot of trigger warnings before you start reading this book. Like, I read this a couple of times as a fanfiction. It was one of my favorite fanfictions when I was a teenager. Because of that, I have a lot of nostalgic feelings toward this book that might have judged or clouded my judgment, and I gave this a 5 stars on my Goodreads simply because I had a lot of fun with it. I love the darkness of this story, and I kind of forget the names that they are given in this story and read it as Draco and Hermione. I can't help myself, I really do. Like, come on, Hermione, Bryony, like it sounds almost the same. And all these characters, they are so similar to the characters from Harry Potter, and I just love it. I especially love the twist in the world. It's completely different, the magic system is different. Those are the things that I'm really looking forward to in the sequel, to see how that develops even more, because I kind of forgot about that in the fanfiction. Maybe it even got more attention in this book than it had in the fanfiction. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's a very dark romance and I just really loved it, and the magic system was so extremely interesting. Check out the trigger warnings before you pick it up. But further than that, if this sounds like something you think you might enjoy, then definitely pick it up, because I think it is very well written for a book that is based on a fanfiction or is kind of like a fanfiction. It is very well written. Then we come to another of my favorites this month, and that is The Throne of Nightmares by Kerri Maniscalco. I love everything that Kerri writes. Like the Jack and the Ripper series, amazing. Then we have the Kingdom of the Wicked, I love it so much. This is a series that is the Prince of Sin series. That is kind of like a companion series to the Kingdom of the Wicked. You can definitely read this all separately. They're like a standalone series, so each book follows a different prince of hell. And this time we follow the Prince of Sloth, and we follow him while he tries to find a certain book, and he takes someone else with him, a girl who he doesn't even know, to a different realm, and they end up in the realm of nightmares, and there they have to find this book and defeat a lot of nightmares from LaRue. And LaRue has a lot of nightmares that are also one of her favorite books, so there are a lot of fun moments where she meets her favorite characters from her favorite books. And I think as a book lover you might even enjoy this a lot, because the idea of going through books you actually love and those books turning out to be a nightmare even though they are your favorite characters was so much fun to read. And I especially love their banter, their romance. The only downside I had, the reason why I gave this 4 stars, was that I did not really love it as much as the other ones. I liked their story, I really enjoyed their banter, but when it came to the love story, I felt it was probably one of the weaker ones. It was quite obvious from the beginning. They kind of really liked each other a little bit too early, probably for me. And now we come to a book that was actually a reread for me, and that is A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett and Clair, and the first book in the Hades and Persephone saga. I love this series. I read this before in French. I've got them all on my bookshelves upstairs in French, and I decided to buy all of them in Dutch. And I just love this story. It's an Hades and Persephone love story set in the modern world, Hades still runs hell. He has like some nightclub as well that he runs. And Persephone is a journalist who does some study and tries to do some research for an article that she's writing. And this article is about Hades. That's how they come to know each other, and they slowly fall in love. Like their relationship is something that definitely develops in the first book. And towards the end of the story, it's kind of like established, and that kind of continues in the rest of the series. I think that this story is a very interesting twist of the Hades and Persephone story that we know from the Greek mythology. And I just love it. I really enjoy the writing. I love the banter. I love the characters. I just really enjoy everything about it. And even maybe more being set in the modern world, because I think it has been done really well. Even though in the modern world we don't really believe in all these Greek gods anymore, and they're kind of like more treated as very famous celebrities. I just think it is a lot of fun, and getting to know all these different gods throughout the story as well. I just had so much fun rereading this one. And now we come to my biggest disappointment so far in the year. My mother and I, we buddy read this book, and we buddy read the full book series last year. And I'm talking about the Robert Langdon series by Dan Brown. We have read it before. We decided to buddy read it because a new book was coming out, and we just thought it was fun to read like one every couple of months. And we ended 2025 with picking up Secrets of Secrets. I finished this one in January, and we both didn't like it at all. I love Dan Brown normally. I've read all his other works as well, and I love the Robert Langdon series. Like, it's one of my favorite series, and it is very nostalgic to me as well, because my mother and I, we got into the books because my grandfather loved it so much. And Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, Inferno, they're amazing. They're so well written. They're suspenseful, amazing thrillers, and I love Robert Langdon as a character. This book, huge miss for me. I did not enjoy it at all. I ended up giving this 2 stars because I don't like giving a book 1 star. I kind of feel this is a 1 star for me. I did enjoy the first 150 pages because that definitely felt like all the other books from the Robert Langdon series. But everything after that felt completely different. It felt like a lecture on neuroscience and what happens to human beings after they die. That kind of like is the main focus of the story. And there's a second character in this book which we got to know in the Lost Symbol, and that is Robert Langdon's love interest in this one, Catherine Solomon, and she is a neuroscientist. She kind of like investigates what happens to you after we die. That's kind of like everything that's been told to you throughout the book. She gives lectures, she explains pages and pages and pages of information about this again and again and again. The same information with some new information attached to it a couple of chapters later. Robert Langdon is completely a character focused more in the background than he is in the forefront. He doesn't really solve the mysteries, the symbols, the puzzles as he did in the other books, and that was something that I was missing so much. There's also almost no history attached to this story, no symbolism, no mystical elements, no legends, there's nothing really that is normally happening in the Robert Langdon series that is going on here. Like, Robert Langdon is a professor at Harvard who investigates or knows a lot about symbols and history and culture, and I was expecting that in this one, but then about Prague, I was completely bored. I didn't care for the lectures that we got. I am not someone who is interested in neuroscience, so it might have been to do with that. I didn't like the fact that Robert Langdon was not really the main character of his own story. I also read these 2 Agatha Christie books, The Murder on the Links and Lord Edgware Dies. Both of them follow Poirot, who kind of like investigate these books. He is together with Hastings. In Murder on the Links they go to France, to a little village where the homeowner has died, and they need to figure it out, and they get acquainted with the family. They try to figure out, there are a lot of scandals in the family that are where all these secrets that are slowly coming out, and people are in love with each other who should not be in love with each other, and it was so much fun. I just love Poirot and Hastings together, and I'm slowly making my way through the Poirot series. And I also read Lord Edgware Dies, and I really love this one even more. I think it is so well written and so suspenseful. It is about Lord Edgware, who dies obviously, and his wife is suspected of murdering him because there are a lot of evidence pointing towards her. But Poirot is certain that she didn't do it, and she asked him to find the real killer, and that's what he's doing, going through London trying to find who actually did it. He investigates a lot of people. It goes to different places, and I love this one so much. It has so many unexpected turns and twists towards the end, and I had a lot of fun reading them both 4 stars. I just love Agatha Christie so much, and I think she's amazing when it comes to murder mysteries. Let's go to The Shadow Bride, the sequel to Scarlet Fell by Shelby Mahurin. The Scarlet Fell is a companion series from the Serpent and Dove trilogy, and this time in The Scarlet Fell we follow Celine, and Celine, she is a normal human being, and she wants to prove to her friend group that she's also important and that she can take care of herself and that she can fight and solve problems as well. And she ends up kind of like being kidnapped and ends up on this vampire island with Vampire King, and there she has to do a couple of things and then she falls in love with him. And that's kind of the story that is continued in the sequel. I love this so much, you guys. I love Shelby Mahurin's writing. I love the historical elements combined with the fantasy, and I just love the vampires, the witches. It is so suspenseful, so scary at sometimes, very dark, and I just love the romance that she writes. I loved it in Serpent and Dove, and I love it as well in this duology. I think it is just extremely well written, and I just love the story between Celine and her Vampire King. It is just so heartwarming. There was even one moment in this story that I was so completely shocked that I literally stared at my pages with my mouth open, and I was like crying, and I didn't want to read the book any longer because so many horrible things were happening to our favorite characters. Highly recommend if you love a good romance story, something that is slow burn and with historical and fantasy elements combined, then these are books that you probably really enjoy. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. This is a book where we follow Sybil, and Sybil is kind of like this nun living in this convent. She's able to dream the future of other people as soon as she's taken their blood. She's kind of like ducked into water, and then she can dream about what's going to happen to the person she took the blood from. And that's kind of like her job, what she does. She does this for the king, and that kind of like sets a lot of things into motion. This is a romance story, but at the same time also a little bit of a medieval fantasy aspect to it, with a lot of knights and traveling, and a king that kind of like needs to prove himself to his country and his realm. And I really enjoyed the mystical elements to this. I loved the Gorgle in this story. It was so funny. The banter, it was great. I did not really enjoy the romance. I felt it was a little bit obvious at the beginning and not a lot of development. It was kind of like more there, and I felt it was more on a lust base than it really was a deeper type of love. This was fun. I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed the mystical elements. The story itself I think could have been told into one book instead. The ending, some things are happening that I felt could have been left out, and that kind of like sets in motion a sequel. But at the same time, the story that is kind of like told in this book, it has been wrapped up at the end. So I wished it kind of like left it there, because then the story probably would have been a lot better as a standalone than as a sequel or a duology. But we'll see. I might pick up the sequel as well. I think I will. And the last book we need to talk about is Brimstone by Callie Hart, the sequel to Quicksilver. Quicksilver is a story where we meet Ceres for the first time, and she lives in like the outer skirts of the city. She is a thief. She tries to survive. And then suddenly she's kind of like drawn into this fairy realm, and there she meets Kingfisher, and Kingfisher wants her to do some certain type of alchemy magic where she can control the quicksilver that they need for armies and they need it for weapons. It's kind of like a very quick description of the story. There's a lot of things happening in Quicksilver already. There are vampires involved, there's fae involved, different type of fae as well. There are a lot of things happening, an amazing magic system. I love the romance in Quicksilver. I really enjoyed the banter, the slow build up, the enemies to lovers trope that was in there as well. And I couldn't wait to pick up Brimstone. When I started reading this book, I had so many high hopes. It started off so extremely good. It ends also really, really good. However, in between, too many things are happening. Very fast paced, a lot of things are happening, and that's actually my issue with the story. I think there are too many things happening in this story. The characters hardly get time to breathe. What really bugged me the most was character development. People are dying in this book and they don't really seem to care at all. Ceres adapts her to her new life very, very easy. Well, it is extremely different. She has a different body. Things are different from her, but she doesn't really need to learn about it at all. Everything that was happening was great. There's a lot of suspense, but we never really stay very long in one situation to kind of like get accustomed, get used to your surroundings and really understand what these characters are going through. Romance is a lot more focused on physical romance than on anything else. There's not a lot of development in that department at all. 3 stars in the end, but I kind of hoped a little bit more. I felt really bad for giving it 3 stars because I gave Quicksilver 5 stars and had so much fun with it, and I think it is amazing still. So I'm hoping that the next one is a lot better. So yeah, we ended up still sitting for a very long time on the ground. I do hope that you had an amazing time chatting with me about all these books. As I said, I would love to know what you guys read, and obviously if you read any of these books that I mentioned, what did you think of these books? Like, have you read them yourself? Do you want to read them? If you're still here, I really appreciate you all being here and still listening to me ramble and talk. And thank you so much and have an amazing day. See you then. Bye bye.